hang on. Yes.
It's a bit of a clever foot.
Yes, he is.
154 and a half.
154 and a half, the official weight for Islam Makhachev.
One. Thank you, baby.
Okay, go, Chair. Thank you.
171, the official weight for Ian Machado Garry.
One. Thank you, baby.
He have more than 10 fights in the UFC right now, and the number one things what he improved is experience. Now he have more experience in the UFC, in the hard fight, and I'm also grew up, take the belt. I have many hard fight. That's why I have more experience.
Champion of all time, now you are moving up to welterweight. Give us your thoughts on as a fighter and what tomorrow night means to you.
One day to my dream, to biggest fight in my life. I'm ready. Thank you all. See you tomorrow.
Good luck to you, sir. The challenger, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely, he's a tougher test than a grindy wrestler. Shavkat's phenomenal everywhere on the feet. He can grapple, he can wrestle, he can beat you on the feet with submissions, with strikes. He can beat you on the ground with submission and strikes. I just feel like it would have been a nice box to tick off to go out there and show the world that I can shut down people's wrestling against that American style and then go forward and fight someone like himself. And I'm very excited to have this opportunity. And I'll talk to him, I'll dance in his face, I'll do whatever I want, because the truth is, when we get locked into that cage one day, he's never going to be able to deal with me. But the truth is, I have a target on my back. I have the ability to stand here and shoot shots at anyone I want, because this is my job, and they have the opportunity in return. So for me, when you attack people in my circle, when they don't deserve it, that's out of line. And look,
Как называется?
Left tire.
Well, when the tire flat, you have to bring, like, put something to put your car up, you know. And I need some big guy to hold my car. And maybe DC can hold my car, and I change that first.
Awesome. What's up, my brother? Good to see you. Thanks for coming out. How you feeling?
We're in the big house.
Islam Makhachev taking on Ian Garry. Who have you both got in that fight?
Ooh, it's good question, bro. I like Ian. Puta que pariu, velho. Eu me fodo dos dois lados. I think Ian. Mano, fugiu o nome dele?
Makhachev.
Não.
Ian Garry.
Ian Garry, yeah. I prefer Ian Garry. Ian Garry. I have little problem find my chin, yeah? Okay.
The weigh-in face-off represents the final psychological moment before the cage door closes. Both fighters bring contrasting messages. Garry's physical presence at the face-off, his size, his reach visible standing directly across, communicates that Islam cannot simply catch him. But Islam's confidence in that moment communicates something different, that physical size becomes irrelevant the moment the clinch is established. Neither message is hype. Both are tactical acknowledgments of their respective systems. Garry is saying your closing distance is going to be difficult. Islam is saying your height means nothing once I have you. These aren't contradictory, they are different assessments of the same fight based on where each fighter wants the action to occur. Islam's stated approach emphasizes grinding, pressure, and the expectation that he wins every round. This isn't about finishing, it's about cumulative control. He can finish if the fight unfolds that way, but his primary objective is pattern establishment. Early clinch sequences lead to later positional control, which creates submission angles in later rounds. The grinding approach means Islam doesn't need to be explosive or dramatic. He needs to be relentless and directional. Garry, by contrast, needs dramatic moments, clear striking victories, successful distance resets, visible wrestling defense, because his system requires demonstrating that Islam can't catch him. Islam's system requires showing that he will eventually get his hand on Garry and chain attacks from there. Islam's multi-phase approach, striking to clinch, clinch to wrestling, wrestling to submissions, requires him to control Garry's posture and positioning at each transition. His striking at range isn't designed to outstrike a taller opponent. It's designed to force Garry into positions where Islam can chain attacks together. This is the critical tactical sequence Islam emphasized. Connect the hands, begin chaining attacks together, and the entire fight changes within seconds. This doesn't mean Islam is trying to KO Garry with strikes. It means Islam uses hand contact to establish the entry into clinch, and once in clinch, the attacks chain immediately into pressure, trips, and control positions. The strikes are the first link in a sequence that extends into grappling exchanges. Islam's wrestling is a cumulative threat, not a one-rep system. He doesn't need to hit consistent takedowns to win the wrestling battle. He needs to establish takedown threat enough that Garry's movement becomes reactive instead of proactive. Every level drop, every clinch threat, every feint changes how Garry approaches his own footwork. Garry has to account for the possibility of Islam's entry, which means his movement includes defensive adjustments that prevent him from using pure offensive footwork. This is the tactical tax of facing an elite wrestler. Your most athletic systems get constrained because defensive responsibility takes priority. Islam forces Garry to choose between generating offense and maintaining wrestling defense, and that choice is made on every movement. Garry's defensive responsibility is to make Islam work for every position transition. The moment Islam's hand makes contact, whether from a striking sequence or a clinch approach, Garry must either create distance or make Islam commit to deeper control. If Garry allows Islam to establish hand contact without consequence, Islam can use that hand contact as the anchor point for the next phase of his attack. Garry's footwork and movement have been identified as defensive keys because they allow him to either reset distance after Islam makes contact or to create angles that prevent Islam from chaining attacks together. But this requires constant adjustment. Garry can't simply maintain distance passively. He has to actively disrupt Islam's positioning whenever contact is made. The weigh-in confirmed that both fighters made weight, both are physically ready, and both are entering UFC 330 with their systems intact. Islam brings his pressure, clinch architecture, and multi-phase approach to a fighter who's naturally larger and longer. Garry brings his size, reach, movement, and striking to a fighter who's dominant in clinch and grappling exchanges. The question isn't which system is better. It's which system survives first contact and adapts faster when the other fighter makes adjustments. Islam's path requires closing distance and establishing clinch patterns. Garry's path requires maintaining distance and forcing Islam to chase. Everything that happens at UFC 330 flows from this fundamental systems conflict, and the weigh-in simply confirmed that both fighters are ready to execute their respective approaches. The weight distribution difference also affects clinch exchanges mechanically. Garry is built vertically tall, long limbs, reach-oriented. Islam, even at welterweight, is built more densely with his mass distributed lower on his frame. In clinch exchanges, this matters significantly. When Islam accesses the collar tie or underhook position, his leverage comes from his base and his ability to control Garry's posture downward. Garry's height becomes a disadvantage in the clinch because his length makes it harder to maintain base and posture control against an opponent who's lower and denser. The weight difference, Garry's natural mass at welterweight versus Islam's cut mass, becomes tactically relevant in how clinch pressure distributes force. Islam doesn't need to be heavier. He needs to be positioned lower and more densely packed when clinch contact happens. Islam's weight management entering UFC 330 reveals his strategic approach to the division change. He walks around at 87 kilograms, approximately 192 pounds, and is cutting down to fight weight, using creatine and protein supplementation for the first time in his career to gain lean mass. This is significant because weight cut difficulty indicates relative size. Islam is adding mass strategically for welterweight, but he's not dramatically heavier than typical welterweights. What matters mechanically is that he's using the additional weight to maintain his pressure and clinch strength against larger opponents. He hasn't become a different fighter, he's become a heavier version of the same fighter. That means his pressure systems, his clinch architecture, and his takedown threat all transfer to welterweight, but now they have to work against opponents who are naturally larger. The final variable entering UFC 330 is mental preparation under championship pressure. Islam has been here before. He understands championship-level pressure and has the experience of navigating it multiple times. Garry is experiencing a championship fight for the first time, which means the pressure is different even though both fighters have legitimate systems. Islam's confidence is rooted in his established track record. Garry's confidence is rooted in his belief that his system works. That difference in confidence foundation affects decision-making under pressure. When things don't go as planned, when a technique doesn't work or an opponent makes an unexpected adjustment, experience often allows faster problem solving. That experience factor is one element that doesn't show up in tape study or technical breakdowns, but it exists at championship level. Garry's size advantage creates a specific technical requirement. Islam must cross open space to close the distance gap. When Garry controls the center of the octagon, Islam has to move forward through space that Garry can exploit with strikes or footwork adjustments. This is why Islam's approach in every fight involves forcing opponents to react to the threat of the takedown before he's committed to closing distance. If Islam attempts to close distance without establishing the psychological threat first, Garry has time to create angles with his longer frame. Islam's solution is to establish the takedown fear from range, via feints, stance changes, level drops, so that Garry is committed to defensive positioning before Islam actually has to cross the distance gap. Once Garry's mind is on defense, Islam's closing distance becomes less dangerous because Garry is already expecting pressure. The physical contrast at the weigh-in tells a story that extends directly into the fight mechanics. Ian Garry is an unusually tall welterweight. He naturally carries his frame at a size that most fighters in the division don't match. Islam Makhachev moved up from lightweight where he spent years building his championship legacy. Now at welterweight, he's competing in a division where his opponents have inherent reach and height advantages that didn't exist at 155 pounds. This isn't just about physical profile, it's about how that profile forces tactical adjustments. Garry's reach and height mean that Islam must close distance to establish his clinch architecture. At lightweight, Islam's opponents couldn't afford to maintain distance the way Garry can. At welterweight, closing distance isn't optional. It's the only way Islam accesses the systems that made him dominant.